What's going on, guys? Tried to get Jose in on the Discord chat, but Discord is super complicated, so we couldn't quite get it figured out. But Jose, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just gonna go over some of the big. We're gonna go over the big free agent signing, and then we're kind of gonna run through the NFL gauntlet real quick because we're all pretty well versed in free agency. We're gonna go who's gonna win each division. Well,
Okay,
first of
sounds
all,
good.
yeah. So the big news, obviously, Tom Brady, 2 years, $50 million. First of all, was he ever on your radar to join the Buccaneers?
No, man, as crazy as it sounds, that's one of the teams that I did not have him going to. The top two teams that I had him overall, before anything was I had him going to the LA Chargers, and if anything, I thought possibly going to Tennessee. Now, I never thought Tennessee could be 100% of a destination for him just because of what Ryan Tannehill did last year. The guy had no pressure. He wasn't supposed to be there, and look what he did. And honestly, I mean, look what they did. They showed out and they gave him a contract, so they stuck with him. But I honestly thought that he was either going to go to the LA Chargers, or at the end of the day, even an opportunity for him to jump with the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, obviously, we see that didn't happen. A lot of people are excited about the whole thing with him going to Tampa Bay. I'm not either excited or disagreeing with it, to be honest with you. I'm just happy he's no longer in the AFC East, so my Jets don't have to deal with him two times a year anymore. But I think it's good for the NFL, and I think it's good for the NFC as well, because now you're going to have him facing two top-notch quarterbacks twice a year in Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, which he's basically giving the fans in the NFL a little more that they want to see that they haven't seen, if that makes sense. I know Tom Brady's towards the end of his career, but I think he's doing this more for the NFL and the fans, as crazy as that sounds, more than anything, because look at the excitement he's going to bring us in that division now in the NFC. So I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know how they're going to do overall. Let's be real here. If you follow Bruce Arians and the quarterbacks that he has, he even says that you got to risk it to get the biscuit. And first years that he's had a quarterback, their numbers aren't that great, but then they get better. Tom Brady's not at that position right now where you can't have a good first year. You need to get something out of him and get something out of him now. And not only that, the fact that the Super Bowl is in Tampa Bay this year made perfect sense for Tom Brady to get there. I mean, he's closer to home. He has a home in New York, so the flight from Tampa to New York isn't that bad. He's in warm weather. He has a quarterbacks coach. I'm sorry, a coach that is great with quarterbacks. You have a wide receiver that's taller than any wide receiver you've ever had in your career. And Mike Evans, he's 6'5", as where Randy Moss was 6'4". A lot of people think that Randy Moss was bigger. He was not. Um, the only thing that I'm not too confident in is their running game. I'm not too confident in Ronald Jones. I like the tight ends because you have Brate and you have Howard. So he finally has a two tight end system once again, which he was comfortable with in New England when he had Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski as well. But it's yet to be seen. We don't even know when, if the NFL season is going to start yet. So, let's just talk about all these crazy signings more than anything, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, you kind of alluded to it, his offensive weapons. He kind of fell off last year in a sense. Do you see that as something that like he's just getting old, or maybe he just didn't have the weapons? Like, do you predict him having a better season than last year?
To be honest with you, I don't think they brought in the right weapons in New England, but they had weapons and they didn't use them correctly. When you have a guy like James White, which should have been the MVP in the Super Bowl the year they beat the Falcons, in my opinion, and he did not get that, but yet you don't use this guy the very next season on a consistent basis, I think that hurts a guy like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's comfortable with a running back that can come out of the backfield and catch the ball. Tom Brady's not the type of guy that you're going to have a running game under. We know that. He's never had a huge, great, solidified running game. They've always been good, but they've never had that top-notch star running back guy that we've known or we've come to love for a good 5, 6 years with New England. You understand what I'm saying there? As where they kept switching receivers.
Yeah.
They couldn't have one guy that was consistent. The last guy they had consistent there was Randy Moss, and they did not win the Super Bowl with him. I think the fact now that you have proven guys around him, you have guys that we know the type of numbers they could put up with, even with a guy like Jameis Winston. Now you bring in a guy like Tom Brady. I think they got to get a little bit better on the offensive line. Obviously, you got to take care of this guy. But you have a team that defensively was one of the best teams, if not the best defensive team in the league the last month of the season. So Tom Brady's going into a situation where on the defensive side of the ball, he doesn't have to worry about it so much right now. But on the offensive side of the ball, he has proven guys that are name guys, that are Pro Bowlers, that people know about. We don't just have an offense that Bill Belichick is putting together and scraping guys and trying to see who can catch the ball from this guy. So now we're actually going to see what can Tom Brady do with a solidified offense. And what I mean by that, name Pro Bowl top-notch players that we know can produce, that have been in Tampa Bay for a few years. We're not talking about guys that just got scraped together for a season and hoping that Tom Brady can do something. And I think that was the problem, that even though they won the Super Bowl a few years ago here recently with Atlanta, when they beat Atlanta, they have not been the team that they were known for in the years past, if that makes sense. Even though they've gotten there, they've had their struggles, and they have not looked like the New England Patriots of past. Now, I'm shocked he left New England. You know what I mean? I'm happy, but there's nothing that we can see until it happens. We know who he is. We know what he can bring, but the guy's 42 years old. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's 42.
Like, what really can we expect from him? He's always been a dink and dunk quarterback. Think about it. The offense that New England has always ran has always been dink and dunk. Screen plays, slants here and there, slot receivers. Yeah, they throw the ball on the outside and throw far from time to time. But Tom Brady's never really been that guy to throw it down the field. Let's be real here. So it's going to be interesting. Now, obviously, yes, the offense looks good. Name-wise, on paper, he has an offense there that, hey, they look like possibly a favorite to do something. And here's something that I'm going to throw out for you, too, that no one is talking about. What have we seen here in the last few days with players that are free agents? We've had the LeBron James effect, and no one is talking about that. What happened when LeBron James went back to Cleveland? Or even what happened when LeBron James was still in Miami? You had players that were calling these organizations, asking, hey, sign me, pick me up. What do I have to do to get there? I'm a free agent. They're cutting me. They're doing this. Am I right or wrong? That's something that we saw. And that's something that we're seeing here now in the last few days. There's been reports coming out that free agents are calling the Tampa Bay Bucks. Hey, I'll take a pay cut. I want to be on this team. What do I got to do to play with Brady? So it's going to be.
That is, though.
Say that again?
Like, what free agent do you think is calling? Because a lot of the big ones are kind of gone now, aren't they?
No, I agree with you. That's another question that's yet to be answered. Who are the people that are calling? And are these players that Tampa Bay or even Tom Brady are willing to say, okay, let's take the shot? One of the crazy names that's out there that people are saying might happen is AB. Do we really think that the Bucks would take an opportunity with Antonio Brown, knowing everything that's happened right now?
No, I think Tom Brady gives that a hard pass.
At this point in his career, you're 42 years old. You're taking an opportunity with a team that you have as a quarterback more wins than they do in their history. So think about that. Think about that in general. Tom Brady's acolytes, his wins, his win percentage, his playoffs wins, everything surpasses what the Bucks have as a franchise in a whole. So Tom Brady in itself is already taking a big risk by doing this. Why would you bring in someone like AB? In my opinion, I love the guy. He was a great talent, but I think the best years are behind him and he's done. His career's over. I'm interested to see how the Mike Evans, Tom Brady connection is going to work here, though. That and the Calvin Brait and O.J. Howard, because we know how Tom Brady loves his tight ends.
Yeah, and O.J. Howard was supposed to have a big season last year, but he was a big stinker. So maybe Tom Brady's going to be the one to kind of unlock this guy's career.
It's yet to be seen, man. We shall see. I mean, obviously, when you have a guy like Jameis Winston, crab leg Jameis, loves to throw the picks. A lot of people will say, "Oh, he's great. He threw 30 touchdowns. I don't know how many yards he had. One of the best quarterbacks overall. If you take away the picks, okay, I get that. But when you throw 30 picks, you're not that great. When you lost, I think 7 games by 2 or less points, that obviously shows that those extra picks you threw are what hurt your team. If you would have thrown 1 less pick per game, think about it. That's 16 games, I'm sorry. The guy would have finished 30-13. a lot more better, probably still have his job. Obviously, that's not the case. In comes Tom Brady. But once again, the season hasn't even started here, Spence. We don't even know what's going to happen. We don't even know how good Tom Brady really is going to be or what he really has left in the tank. I think at this point, everyone is just banking on the name Tom Brady and hoping that that's going to come up big.
I guess I can't blame the Bucks, right? I mean, they need something, so this is something for sure.
Especially a guy like Bruce Arians bringing in someone like Tom Brady. I don't blame the guy. I mean, if you look at his coaching career as an assistant, and even when he took over as an intern coach when he was in Indianapolis, when Chuck Pagano got cancer and all that, the
Yeah.
guy can coach. We know that, and not only that, he's a quarterback whisperer. So at this point, though, you don't have to be a quarterback whisperer for Tom Brady. It's basically come in, run my offense, let's have a good time. So I don't know, man. I I'm not gonna say I'm thrilled about the whole Tampa Bay thing. I think there's better situations he could have jumped himself into. But at the end of the day, we're media. We're not the players. We don't know why they do things. We don't know what's in their head. We don't know why they do things. At the end of the day, we just have to sit back and watch and report on it, and that's what we do.
Maybe we'll see another Raiders Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl rematch.
Now, if that happens, that would be insane. That would literally be insane because you would have John Gruden now coaching his ex team that he won a Super Bowl with after beating his ex team. That would just be insane.
That'd be the best story, and plus, that'd be the first time that a team makes the Super Bowl in their own city, like when they're hosting. So it'd probably
Yeah,
be like
no
the
host
biggest Super
team.
Bowl of all time.
Yeah, no host team has ever made it, and that's what I'm saying. If you think about it, what has Tom Brady done his whole career?
So that'll help us transition. Yeah. So let's break it down. The NFC South, the Saints, the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Panthers. And we've seen that the Drew Brees is back for the Saints, and the Carolina Panthers now have Teddy Bridgewater. Who wins this division? I mean, this is crazy.
This division is now officially insane, but I can honestly say that it's back to the way that division has been. If you follow this division in the past few years, I don't know about recently. I haven't followed the last 2, 3 years, but this was a division that literally never had a repeat back-to-back division winner. Literally, I believe it was 4, 5, 6 years, if anything, where it was always a different division winner coming out of this division. But now you got a guy in Drew Brees, which, in my opinion, he has unfinished business. Think about what happened just a few years ago with the Rams and the whole debacle in that playoff game. I think Drew Brees still has something to prove. That's why he came back. Not only that, they still have players on that squad. They have ballers, they have all stars. And when you have a guy like Sean Payton that we know he can coach, but then not only that, if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, think about this. The guy just tested positive for coronavirus. God, hopefully God help him out in his family. We're praying for him. But think about it. If this guy comes back healthy and he's ready to go and the season starts, you don't think this is something that's going to fuel Drew Brees and that organization and that team? That's one right there. Now let's jump to the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm going to throw this out there, and I don't care. People can call me cocky, but I'm going to give myself credit. As soon as the news broke that Todd Gurley was released from the Los Angeles Rams, the first tweet that I sent out was, I'm calling it now. He's going to Atlanta. He's going to sign with the Falcons. He played at Georgia. It's kind of a homecoming, even though we know he's not from Atlanta. But when you play at a college and you gave it your all, some guys want to go back and they're comfortable playing in that. Not only that, Todd Gurley started his NFL career playing in a dome with the St. Louis Rams. He's back in a dome now. I know people say he's washed up, he's got injuries, his knees. The guy's only been in the league 4 or 5 years. He's not completely washed up. I know running backs nowadays, their life expectancy is only 5 or 6 years in the NFL. People say the career is over. I still think Todd Gurley has a lot left in the tank. Not only that, when you're adding this guy with someone like Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, which this is something possibly he's going to need to get back on track, and you add him with Julio Jones, and you're giving Calvin Ridley another season, I mean, these guys are going to be sick. Their defense is going to be good. I think offensively, they're bringing in some weapons in free agency that's going to help them solidify everything overall. So we're yet to be seen what's going to happen there, but that's going to be a fun situation. Now, I'm going to skip Tampa Bay because we already know what's going on there with Tom Brady. They finished 7-9 last year. Can Tom Brady's turn it around? Some people say maybe 8-8. I say they can possibly win the division, but we'll see. Now, Carolina, here's the interesting one there. We know what Teddy did with New Orleans when Drew Brees was out. I'm a big Teddy Bridgewater fan. I like what he did. I like what he's done in his career, and I don't think he's just been in the right situation yet. But here's the problem for me. I'm not sold on the Baylor coach that they brought in. If you listen to this guy's press conference, he sounded more like we're watching a Sunday morning mass on Christian television and we're listening to, geez, what's that guy? And why am I spacing out here now? The guy from Houston, Texas, the guy that's all over, not the Texas, the guy from Houston that's a preacher. Like, it sounded like a freaking speech to motivate people and like you're going to make me sell or buy something. It didn't sound like a football coach coming in and saying, you know what? What happened here. We're going to create something. I'm going to get together with this guy. It's time to get to work. It didn't sound that way to me. So to me, I don't think Teddy jumped into the right situation. I just think he jumped into the first situation that was offered to him contract-wise, and the money looked good, and he knows he has the opportunity to be a starter there because we all know Cam Newton is gone. Cam Newton's not coming back. So it's yet to be seen, but I'm not sold on Carolina just yet. Now, if I had to break this division down and say how's it going to end up, I think it's a coin flip, Spence. Let's be real here. It's between New Orleans, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay. I just don't see Carolina doing anything this year because of the coaching situation there. Tampa Bay has a great coach. Atlanta has a guy that's been there for a while and already took them to a Super Bowl, and we all know what Sean Payton can do. So I think it's between those three teams, and I honestly think it's a coin flip here. If I had to just throw it out there and tell you, I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm taking New Orleans. I think New Orleans wins the division this year.
I say Drew Brees has a noodle arm. He's in my noodle arm category. So I'm going to give it to the Bucks. I am because Atlanta just can't play consistent enough for me to challenge for the first seed in the NFC South. All right, we're going to stay in the NFC here. Got the 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals.
This is another division that obviously people that are football fans or just think they know about football in general are going to go with the Niners just because of what they did last year. But you got to understand that the Niners lost a lot of key pieces. Emmanuel Sanders just signed with the New Orleans Saints, the team that we're just talking about from the NFC South, or at least has agreed to sign with them. Not only that, they lost one of their key defensive guys on the defensive end in what's his name?
DeForest Buckner.
There you go, Buckner. And he was the other guy that solidified that corner. You have Bosa on one side and you had him on the other, and you take that away. That kind of takes a bit away from your defense in general there. Now, Seattle, I think Seattle's going to have a bounce-back season this year. I think last year was more of a let's figure it out. Let's see what I have here with Metcalf and some of the other guys that I'm playing with. I still think they got to get better at the running back position. Ever since they lost Marshawn Lynch, they haven't really been able to solidify that spot. They've gone through about 3 or 4 running backs since then. So let's see what they can do there. I still like Pete Carroll. I think he's a great coach. I think he can do a lot more than what he did last year. Not only that, look what they did on the road. They were 7-1 on the road last year. That's really good, especially in a division where overall your division winners went 5-1. You have to win basically every game in this division just to come out on top. And we saw how it ended at the end. It could have been basically between one game where the Seattle Seahawks could have won the division and the Niners could have finished 5th overall as a wild card. Now, the Rams have lost way too much. They've been declining since they went to the Super Bowl, especially after losing Todd Gurley. I think that was huge. People are overreacting, saying that he's washed up, he's done. I don't think Todd Gurley was done at all. I wish they would have kept him. I think that could have helped him out a lot. I know Sean McVay is still a young coach, but I think he's still figuring it out. I just think he had that one year where they were good enough to make it and they played good enough against certain teams, but they weren't tested thoroughly. And that's what it showed when they made it to the Super Bowl and they couldn't do anything. Now, here's the sleeper team, in my opinion. You have a team in Arizona, which has a young coach in Cliff Kingsbury, which no one really is giving any credit to. And they're saying that, why is this guy here? He didn't do anything in college. He didn't really succeed at Texas Tech. Why are we giving this guy a job? You have a guy in Kyler Murray, which I believe in and I liked in college, and I think he's still going to do good, that just won the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And not only that, you have the gift that was given to you by Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins. You're going to put DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray. I think it's insane. I honestly am going to call this, and I am going to say it. Call me crazy, Spence, but I think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to surprise people this year. And I honestly think that they either come out of this division as the leader or just slightly end up second in the NFC West.
Wow. Well, I'm joined with my dad too. Dad, are you buying the Arizona Cardinals pickup of DeAndre Hopkins?
It certainly makes them more dynamic, having a great young wide receiver like DeAndre Hopkins, and I can see with Murray there, I could see them hooking up like immediately. Like I think there'll be some chemistry there, so it's not too far off. Saying that, yeah, they could win division, but it will be tough sledding to get past the Seahawks and the 49ers, I think. But I think you could make a case for it, yes.
Both the Seahawks and the 49ers, if there is a case to be made for Arizona, they've had underwhelming off seasons.
Agreed, yes.
49ers lost one of their biggest free agents, and I'm assuming with the 13th overall pick, they're going to take a receiver. I think that's their only choice after losing Emmanuel Sanders. So if they get CeeDee Lamb, maybe. But again, of the off seasons of all these teams, the Cardinals have had the best. I still think the 49ers have the best team. So the division is still theirs to lose. Is kind of, I guess, probably the best way to describe it.
And look, and I agree with your dad on a point, because I honestly think that Kyler Murray and Hopkins are going to connect pretty good. And the reason I say this, look at DeAndre Hopkins before he had Deshaun Watson. How many other quarterbacks didn't he have before that? But the guy was still putting up numbers. So he's proven that it's not about the quarterback. It's that he can make chemistry and have chemistry with his quarterback regardless of the talent. We know the talent that Kyler Murray has. He's young. Hopkins is a vet. And Hopkins has never really caused any issues. So I think he's going to come in and be that leader and be that help that Kyler Murray's going to need to take the next step in his career in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. They got him for nothing, too, relatively speaking.
It was a gift. It was a gift. And the reasons why they're saying that it possibly happened, I think it's ridiculous. I really do. But
it's because Bill O'Brien's stupid. That's why it happened.
Well, that's what happened. That's what happens when a head coach gets too much power and you make him the GM or whatever it is.
Never works.
I've never liked that. A head coach should be a head coach. A GM should be a GM. They're two different positions. One person should not run both. That's just my opinion.
In basketball, football, it's never proven to work ever. So I have to agree with you. All right, we'll move on to the NFC North. I got the Cowboys, the Vikings, the Bears, and the Lions.
Oh my God, this is one of those divisions that's, can you disagree with me? It's pretty much a coin flip every year. Even though you have Aaron Rodgers in this division, anybody can come out of this division. That's just what I think in general. I just think that it's one of those divisions where it's scary. I mean, look at what Kirk Cousins in Minnesota did last year, even though I'm still not sold on Kirk Cousins. But then you look at Green Bay, they finished 13-3, but think about it. They finished 13-3, but was their play on the field really 13-3? There was a lot of games that they could have lost and should have lost, especially down the stretch of this season. You know, they weren't the team that everybody expected them to be when the season started and how they started playing. I think they went 6-0 to begin the year, and then they started dipping after that. So that's what I'm saying. What people need to understand, it's not about how you start the season. That's why when teams start undefeated and all that, I don't buy into it. I don't. Let me know when we're in week 16 and 17. Let me know where you're at that point. That's when we can talk. And that's what happened to the Green Bay Packers last year. I think they got hot early. They finished with a great record, but they really weren't that great. I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins. I didn't like him when he was in Washington. I thought the guy was one of those guys that was always coming from behind, and that's why his numbers look great, and that's why he got paid. Plus, they just lost Stephon Diggs, which how do you take Stephon Diggs away from the connection that was Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen in Minnesota? I don't get that. I don't know how they will let him go. Chicago, I'm still not sold on Mitchell Trubisky, even though it seems like Chicago is. I'm not sold on that defense either. You brought in Khalil Mack, but yet you guys finish 8-8. I think Khalil Mack should be a bigger part of that defense and just the overall team chemistry there. Now, when it comes to Detroit, Detroit's just a complete dumpster fire. I've never been so. I've never been sold on Matthew Stafford. Matt Patricia coming in as a head coach was a joke. The guy's a defensive coordinator at best, nothing else. He is not a head coach in this league and should not have been hired as one. Not only that, Matthew Stafford being paid the money that he's being paid, this guy has done nothing for your franchise. Now, if you want to talk about regular season, okay, it's cute what he's done. But what has he done? Nothing in the playoffs, no championship, nothing. Therefore, this division to me, once again, it's Green Bay's to lose. Nobody else's. Green Bay to lose, and that's it. I can't see anybody else winning the division this year. I just can't.
Dad?
I agree. It's Green Bay's division. I mean, I don't even want to watch this division. I mean, didn't the Bears just get another quarterback?
They traded for Nick Foles, a fourth-round pick or something like that.
So they obviously don't believe in who they had starting there, and they overpaid for people on defense. Their team is a mess. The Lions are horrible. Yeah, Green Bay, I think they're going to just walk away with that division. I mean, unless somebody does something spectacular in the draft and makes
the Vikings would have to hit something big.
The Vikings would have to, because I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins either. I mean, he's not going to do anything without Stephon Diggs there. He can't. He couldn't do anything with him there, really. So
not really.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, wholeheartedly. It's Green Bay's division to lose.
Crazy. All right, last division in NFC. We've got the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Reds.
All right, so let's go ahead and eliminate the Redskins right now. We know the Redskins are just not going to do anything. I'm not sold on Dwayne Haskins. I'm not sold on Snyder as an owner. I don't like this organization from top to bottom in general. I just don't see them going anywhere. Now, the team that I think can be very interesting and very quiet in this division this year is the New York Giants, and here's why. I've never been sold with Garrett as a head coach when he was with Dallas. But as an offensive coordinator, I've always loved what he can and has done, even with what he did with his time in Dallas before he became a head coach. We know what he can do offensively, and we know what he can do with quarterbacks. He's very proven, and he's good. You have a young quarterback in New York now. Eli's gone. You've given the reins to the guy you drafted. I think that them bringing in someone like Garrett to be the offensive coordinator and help this young kid was a great move. I don't see the Giants winning the division. I'm not going to say they're going to come out of it and surprise people, but I think that they're going to get better this year. I don't see them being a 4-12 team again. I can honestly see them finish anywhere from 7-9, maybe even 8-8. Call me crazy. Now, where it gets interesting is Dallas. You have the whole situation with Dak Prescott, giving him the exclusive franchise tag, but yet you sign Amari Cooper. What's going to happen there overall? Zeke got paid. Coop got paid. Dak feels he needs to get paid, which I don't think he deserves the money that he's asking for just yet, but I do think they should give him some type of contract and some type of respect. The team that I believe that's going to come out of this division, though, is I do believe the Philadelphia Eagles will bounce back. 9-7 was not acceptable this season. I think Carson Wentz is the biggest X factor, though. He needs to stay healthy because we know that when he's healthy, we know what he can do. But the problem is he takes too many risks on the field from time to time. This guy needs to protect the ball and protect himself more than anything. I think it's the Eagles, Dallas, Giants, and Washington the exact same way that it ended last year. Call me crazy, but I think Philly wins the division. And I think they actually get 13 wins this year, as crazy as that sounds.
That's interesting. It will come down to those two teams, and it could come down to the last game of the season again because both teams are kind of built to win right now. Cowboys are on the path of destruction, if you ask me, the way they're spending their money, all on offense and nothing on defense. I mean, are they going to pay Dak Prescott the huge money? They already paid for huge money for a running back. Now they paid huge money for a wide receiver. They better do it this year or else it's going to fall apart on them, I believe. So it'll come down to those two teams by the end of the season. But I could definitely see Philadelphia coming out the victor of those two teams.
Yeah, the Cowboys are just waiting to collapse at any moment now. They're gonna be so bad
They're a
defensively.
house of cards. That's what they are.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in them, so I think the Eagles are just gonna win just simply because they have the least worst team. If that even sounds right, but I mean that's what happened last year, and I think there's no reason for it not to happen again. No one in that division has made any big moves enough to change the needle, to move the needle in that respect. Moving on now to the AFC, we got the AFC East, which is the Patriots, the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins.
All right, so this is my division. Obviously, I'm a Jets fan. Now, let me just go ahead and throw them out the water now. We're a dumpster fire. We know that. And here's the problem. I've never been sold on USC quarterbacks, and I'm a USC guy. I'm from Southern California, but yes, I'm also a Jets fan. Now, I've never been sold on USC quarterbacks because they've never really amounted to anything in the NFL. The last USC quarterback that's done anything remote to a great career was Carson Palmer. Before his knee injury, we know what he could do. Before he got hurt in that game against Pittsburgh, he really wasn't the same, but he continued to produce as much as he could. Now, you have a guy like Sam Darnold, which we know the type of potential he has and what he could do. But you have a coach in Adam Gase, which I'm sorry, the guy is completely lost. He has no idea what he's doing. He looks lost on the sideline. The team looks like they don't respect him. And the guy should go back to being a coordinator. He's not a head coach. And that's the problem, that when you keep bringing in these young quarterbacks and you can't produce them correctly because you don't bring in the right head coaching, it's not going to